ATVs, a whole new way to have fun and a whole new set of responsibilities.
Like most vehicles, there are right ways and wrong ways to ride an ATV. The right way is to have a safety-first riding attitude and know your machine, because your safety is your responsibility. I'm Gary Holtz.
And I'm Sandra Martin. We're delighted that you're getting into the exciting adventure of owning a 3- or 4-wheel ATV. And we hope that this program will give you a solid start in learning about riding your ATV. One point we want to make right up front. This program is not intended to serve as a course in ATV riding, but as a starter for owners. We want to make you aware of the basic principles involved and to give you a way to practice your riding skills.
There is a course developed by the Specialty Vehicle Institute of America that covers many of the aspects of riding an ATV. More on that at the close of the program. SVIA also provides publications ranging from tips for riders to special booklets like Parents, Youngsters, and ATVs. Let's talk about you and your ATV. Before you climb onto an ATV, there's something very important that you must consider: your own body. In other words, riding an ATV is just like any other sport. In baseball, it's plastic helmets, sliding pads, chest protectors, and masks. In roller skating, you have to protect the wrists, knees, and elbows with pads, and the head with a helmet. Football has all sorts of protective equipment. And in swimming, there are goggles for the eyes. Every sport requires that you protect yourself against injury, and riding an ATV is no different. But don't think that protective equipment is only for protection against injury. It's also for your comfort in hot, cold, and wet weather to help you enjoy your ATV that much more. The most important of all protective gear is your helmet, because it protects your head, which on some of us is the most important part of the body. Make sure it fits snugly and fastens securely. We recommend a full face helmet like this one, plus goggles. Sunglasses won't do. They don't protect your eyes from dust and usually aren't shatter resistant. A good pair of gloves, good sturdy leather gloves, is another must. Any gloves are an improvement over bare hands, but the best gloves provide both protection and comfort. Look for gloves that have padding over the knuckles and are made for the environment you'll be riding in. If you're riding in the woods, for example, they should protect your hands from scratches. Your feet need protection as much as your hands. And the best foot protection is a pair of heavy, over-the-calf, off-road style leather boots. Any sturdy footwear that covers you up over the ankle is a help, but we always recommend boots. A lot of your control and comfort comes from having your feet securely in place on the footrest. Finally, it's best to wear long padded pants and a long-sleeve shirt to protect your skin from scratches. You see the theme here: being safe means you can have more fun. Now that you're ready, let's learn about riding an ATV.
The first step in riding an ATV is knowing its controls. So the first trip you take should be a careful tour through the owner's manual. The owner's manual covers a lot about your ATV and how to use it. Study the manual carefully before riding and follow its instructions. Controls may differ depending on the make and the model. Controls on ATVs designed for kids may differ from those found on ATVs for adults. It's very important that you be able to operate the controls without looking or hesitating. Take the time to find everything, from the parking brake to the throttle lever, before you start your ATV. A good drill is to get on the ATV and see if you can locate all the controls quickly without looking.
Okay, let's go through all your controls here.
All right. This is parking brake.
Right.
The front brake.
Okay.
Choke. Engine stop switch.
Okay, now wait a second. Where's the choke?
It's down here.
Okay, it's right down here.
Okay.
The black lever.
There's the choke.
Okay.
Throttle.
Right.
And rear brake pedal.
Perfect. Okay, let's go through it one more time.
All right.
This is a good idea for anybody, even people who have ridden other ATVs, because as we already know, the controls can vary from one model to the next. And if you've ridden a motorcycle, you'll have to change your thinking slightly. On an ATV, for instance, you must always keep your feet on the footrests. Further, there's no need to put either foot on the ground while riding. Also, the shifting patterns and some controls are different on ATVs than motorcycles. One similarity with motorcycles, it's always a good idea to check the condition of your machine before you begin to ride. Braking an ATV can be divided into two categories, in a straight line and in a turn. Let's go out to the high country for a look.
You must be able to put your ATV in gear, accelerate slowly and in control, shift gears smoothly, and come to a smooth, safe stop. So the first thing to practice is starting up and driving in a straight line. Get used to the feel of an ATV, the throttle, the steering, and the feeling of controlling it. Once you've learned how to make it go, you can practice using the brakes. The best way to learn and practice is to set up a course like this one. Set up two cones about 10 feet apart with a straight approach path of about 100 feet. Then, try a run in first gear. You drive straight up to the markers, slowing down before you get there, and coming to a smooth, non-skidding stop with your front wheel or wheels exactly between the markers. And do this several times until you can come to a halt right where you want. Now, start out in first, shift into second, then slow down before you get to the markers. Remember to close the throttle when downshifting back into first. Come to a smooth stop with no skidding and your front end right between the markers. Now, braking in a turn is a little different. You drive up to the markers as before, but instead of stopping here, you make a slow, smooth turn to either side and stop at the second marker. You slow down and downshift as you pass through the markers and turn the handlebar gradually, trying for a smooth turn. Keep your feet on the footrests at all times, your head and eyes up, and look into the turn as you approach. Remember to slow down as you turn and lean slightly into the inside of the curve. If you overshoot the mark or skid as you turn and stop, slow down sooner. Practicing these drills will help you master stopping in a straight line and in a curve, like when you come for a rest on a trail ride. What you're doing here is learning how an ATV responds when you use the brakes. After all, if you're going to practice going, you've got to practice stopping.
When turning, you must consider that your speed, body weight, and the terrain all have to work together, and that definitely requires some practice. The point to practicing turns is balance. Turning an ATV is much like turning on roller skates. The weight is applied on the outside of the turn, but you lean your body to the inside of the turn. And you stay in control.
There's a simple drill you can do for this. Place two markers about 60 feet apart. They could be anything, a clump of grass, a hat, anything small that you wouldn't mind accidentally running over during practice.
Now, staying in first gear, ride around the outside of the markers in a smooth, large oval. Try it to the left a few times, then change direction so you're turning to the right. Now combine the two circles into a figure 8. Keep your feet on the footrests at all times. That's important. In fact, you control much of the ATV's maneuverability by changing weight on the footrests. Always look ahead into the turn. Slow down going in and gently accelerate coming out. Weight on the outer footrest, leaning the upper body into the turn. Weight on the outer foot and lean in.
As your skills develop, move the markers closer together so the turns are tighter. Remember, this is practice. It's not a test of skill. So don't see how fast you can do it. See how well you can do it. Right? Right! Now let's go to Gary up in the boonies. Gary?
Thanks a lot, Sandra. Now, since an ATV is an off-road vehicle, that often means you have to make tight turns around trees and rocks and whatever. To make these sharper turns, you need more of the same, balance and control. While turning the handlebar, lean to the inside of the turn and gently use the throttle to bring the rear end around as you come out of the turn. Now, bending your elbows, sliding forward on the seat and leaning forward helps you put more weight on the front end and lean more to the inside of the turn. And when you've done this a few times, do it clockwise. Then change the triangle altogether so you have a new course. That should keep it interesting and give you a chance to practice, practice, practice. When you've mastered sharp turns, here's an exercise for quicker ones. You have to know how to turn quickly, even in wide open areas, to avoid obstacles in your path. Set up markers at intervals of about 35 feet, staying at low speeds at first. Go to the left of the first one, the right of the second, and back and forth like a slalom course. Feet on the footrests always. Rise up slightly and shift your weight quickly as you turn the handlebar. Now, one final tip. Don't look at the next marker. Look at least 2 markers ahead. That way you get used to being prepared. Riding an ATV requires complete attention, particularly on unfamiliar terrain.
So it looks like the most important part of the turns is where your weight is.
Well, it is important. And turning is a learned skill. You have to wait for your skills to develop. It takes practice.
Well, you've probably realized by now that an ATV can be called rider active. That means that you can't just sit there, as in a car. Your body is an active part of the ride, such as when you shift your weight into a turn. That's one more reason why you never carry passengers. You need the room to move your body. An ATV is made for the rider only. Shifting your weight holds true for hills, too, whether you're going up or down. For this segment, we turn to SVIA Chief Instructor and Park Ranger, Jordan Fisher-Smith.
The first thing to consider about a hill is whether it's too steep. Well, I've got a rule for you. If you think it's too steep, it is. Now, some hills are too steep for you and your abilities. Other hills are too steep no matter who's riding. First, find an easy hill with nothing in the way. It should be easy to climb on foot. Keeping both feet on the footrests, accelerate a little towards the hill, switching to a lower gear if you have to. As you start to climb, lean forward and slide forward on the seat. Before you reach the top, turn to one side, keeping your weight uphill at all times as you continue back down the hill. Keep your momentum up with steady application of the throttle. Shift your weight back, sliding back on the seat to the bottom, controlling your speed with the brakes. Do this several times in both directions. Sometimes you might not have enough momentum to go all the way around, and you have to stop right on the hill. Ride straight up the hill, keeping your weight well forward on the ATV. This will keep the uphill wheels weighted. Now stop by gently applying the brakes. After coming to a complete stop, set the parking brake while continuing to lean uphill and get off to the left. If you can, drag the rear of the ATV around to the left, but don't stand directly downhill of your ATV. Always stand uphill of it and pull it toward you. Now, turn the handlebars to the right, step back on, and keep your weight uphill. Release the parking brake and ride downhill, controlling your speed with the brakes, as in the previous drill. If you can't pull it around, get off to the left after setting the parking brake. From that side, you can control the parking brake or clutch more easily. Okay, now, turn the handlebars all the way to the left. Release the parking brake and pump the front handbrake to let the ATV roll back around until it's sideways to the hill. Let the machine and gravity do the work. Now, turn the handlebar to the right and let the ATV roll forward until it is facing downhill, using the brakes again to control the roll. Next, reset the parking brake and get back on, keeping your weight well uphill. Then go back down the hill as you practiced before. While you're at it, practice stopping going down the hill. Keep your weight back toward the hill, just like you lean into it when you're going up. Remember, we're not just practicing technique, we're practicing safety. One thing that isn't safe is riding on the road. Don't do it. These things aren't built for the street. When they call this an off-road vehicle, They really mean it. And remember, keep kids on kids' ATVs and always supervise youngsters. Ride safe now.
That guy's amazing and as safety conscious as anyone out there.
While we're speaking of hills, there are times when you'd want to traverse one or travel across its slope. This is the kind of hill you'd want to practice traversing. An easy slope with no obstructions. You should be able to ride across a slope without stalling or tipping the ATV. Accelerate as you approach, downshifting if necessary, turn to the left, and ride across, keeping both feet on the footrests. Now keep leaning into the hill. Then practice the same stuff, turning to the right. If your front wheel or wheels want to turn downhill while you're traversing, turn them slightly uphill to keep going straight across. Now, when you feel that you've mastered stops, traversing hills, and everything else that we've talked about to this point, try something new. Quick stops. This time, right up to the markers, keeping your front wheel straight, and don't apply the brakes until you're through them. Then stop as quickly as you can safely. The same goes with quick stops in a turn. Make the turn after passing through the two markers, but don't apply the brakes or downshift until you're right at the marker. Mark where you stop. Also make sure to lean to the inside of the turn to maintain balance. When you mastered it in second gear, try it in third. But again, stay within your capabilities. Now, if we practice that and all the other skills we've discussed today, then we've still got a lot to learn.
Remember, this is just a starter for new owners, not a course in riding an ATV. That, incidentally, is provided by the SVIA, the Specialty Vehicle Institute of America. It's a day course taught coast to coast by certified instructors, and it really covers all the bases. Just call this toll-free number for more information, or just ask your friendly ATV dealer for a course near you.
But there's one thing you can practice right from the beginning to make the ATV adventure safer and more fun for all of us. It's called the Code for Adventurers. It's mostly common sense, and it goes like this.
Know your owner's manual.
Always wear your helmet.
Ride off-road only, never on roadways.
Carry no passengers.
Always supervise youngsters.
Lend your ATV to skilled riders only. Remember, it's your ATV, so make sure they're a safe and an experienced rider.
And don't let little kids ride machines that are too big for them to handle.
Ride straight.
No alcohol or other drugs.
Get qualified training.
Ride within your skills.
Check your ATV before you ride.
Protect your head, eyes, and body.
Always ride with someone else, never alone.
Respect riding area rules.
Keep noise levels low.
Preserve the environment.
Be courteous to all you meet.
That's the Adventurer's Code.
And every day, millions of ATV riders who follow it are enjoying the fun of riding safely. You can too, if you take the time to train yourselves properly.
This has been the ATV Rider's Guide to Safety. Enjoy yourselves.
Have a good, safe time.